Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this daily science fiction extravaganza, commonly known as Tales from Outer Space. Taken from the subreddit HFY. All the relevant links will be down below. And, as always, I hope that you enjoy. And if you do, please consider supporting the channel. On to the science fiction. Story number 1. Hazard, written by Lostful. Commander Warthog woke up with a blare of his communicator. He had overseen the Speed blockade since inception, and he was expecting this call. He just didn't expect it to be so early. Why do I have to get the junior intelligence officer every time? I swear, they find someone greener every year to handle this, he thought as he opened up his communicator to find a young Torg staring back at him. Checking the time, he transferred the conversation to his implant as he gave up any hope of more sleep and proceeded to get up. He couldn't even get excited about this anymore. The craziness had become the status quo years ago. He already knew how it would play out. As the intelligence officer chatted on about the status of the human fleet his enemy was assembling, the realization began to set in with the commander. I forgot to brief the new crew member. Guess there'll be a lot of questions today. Eager little bastard, too. The humans won't be here for at least another 4 to 5 hours. He really must be new, he thought as he listened to the excited intelligence agent brief him. He had it on a timekeeper already. The humans didn't even try to keep it a secret when they would be showing up. His government insisted on keeping the blockade until the colonists of the local human colony respected it, something that he had realized early on would never happen. As he finished taking care of the morning routine, he found himself staring at his reflection as he listened to the intelligence agent drone on with the latest status. He found himself chuckling. Those damn humans are lining up to do it again, and only intelligence is surprised. Never thought I'd respect those crazy creatures, but they at least know how to keep a blockade exciting. This would be so much easier if they would just station an intelligence agent here, but they were never where their action was. Thank you, agent. Your information has served the Republic well, he replied, attempting to cut the agent off. But Commander, I haven't even given you the analysis of the human fleet, the young agent exclaimed. The panicked look in his eyes almost made the commander laugh. Well, don't have anything better to do for a few hours, he thought as he said, My apologies. Please continue. Intelligence was giving him a feed of a human fleet forming up. This month it appears to be an even larger fleet will be coming to you. The first wave should already be arriving, the agent exclaimed as the field ships appeared. The first images were of the space tugs he knew would soon flood the region in a line up in the asteroid belt. The next was a loose collection of ships milling around the hazard. It has been 10 years and these crazy bastards are still coming. This blockade hasn't moved, yet they keep coming. I almost long for the old days when it was only a couple at a time at max, he thought as he surveyed the fleet. Yeah, that's a lot of space tugs, he replied as he looked at the fleet being shown to him while mentally chuckling. And I still don't have 2 that looked alike. Guess the vendors I licensed to sell the human food and drink will make enough to pay for this misadventure. Commander, there is no historical precedence for the situation. Every month they show up and run your blockade. How can you be so calm? Agent asked, pulling him from these thoughts. Well, probably because they do this every month, and they never trigger our rules of engagement, so we are helpless to do anything but chase and watch, he replied. He had long since come to realize that the humans enjoyed this. I wonder what the humans tell their pilots to get them to do this, Commander thought as he headed towards the bridge. He knew that he had about 30 minutes until all hell would break loose. Marker had grabbed a cup of coffee as he got on the shuttle into the hangar. He was still chuckling as he looked down at the cup to see the horrendous spelling of his name, Macro, emblazoned on his coffee. He watched the video coverage of the race 98 of the Speed Bay blockade. The space Winnebagos were already lining up in the system along with the asteroid belt. He never ceased to be amazed by the Torg Republic's military still maintained the blockade just so that they could race it. It had been a real boon for Hazard's economy having the founding of the Association for Stock Shuttle Extreme Racing, ASSER. He has to smile at the pre-race coverage showing all of the new races this month. They had finally decided to double the number of races due to the overwhelming demand. His agent had told him the night prior that this 98th race was supposed to have the highest ratings in history, and he was excited to see who his newest sponsor was. His agent and crew chief had been excited, yet wouldn't tell him a thing. "Captain Basag, what's the status of the blockade?" the commander asked, already knowing the answer. "Everyone's in position. We are monitoring the speed. It looks like the humans doubled the number from last month," the captain replied, making the commander snort. "Why does everyone feel the need to tell me the obvious?" "Any response from the human ambassadors?" he asked. "Last I heard, our ambassador was complaining the humans were a paradox. The blockade had improved our relations with the crazy bastards, but no one saw that coming." The commander couldn't help but reflect that he had started when the trade war with the Imari Empire had flared up. What had started as a trade dispute between the Republic and the Inari Empire hadn't seemed odd at first, as standard blockade procedures, all following standard rules of engagement from Galactic Council. Blockades couldn't engage unless the enemy discharged weapon systems, powered up warp drives, or came in within the command ship's designated standoff. So long as none of those conditions were met, all they could do was monitor and archive the events. There wasn't a single Inari ship that approached the blockade during the 2-year conflict. The first humans, however, hadn't waited a month before showing up. They never break the rules, but damned if they don't find a hell of a loophole. You'd have to be insane to travel like that, he chuckled as he came onto the bridge. Marco was getting ready. Soon he would join the liner. The bullet was looking good today, he thought, as he surveyed the ship in the hangar. His sponsor logos were emblazoned on the sides of the ship. He was smiling and he spotted his crew chief. "Hey Eddie, what do you have for me?" "Hey Marco, didn't see you come in. Got my hands on one of those new HF's drives. I think you're gonna like this. Also, we cut another 50 pounds off the weight of her, so your power-to-mass ratio is even better," Eddie replied, almost giddy with excitement. "How in the hell did you get a holy shit drive? Much less cram it in there. I didn't think the HS drive would be out for another 2 years, minimum." Even as Marco asked the question, he felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The last time he was with a new engine and he was doing the speedway run, it was stupid, but exciting. "Well, remember the weight reduction? We had to remove a few things, and we were able to get the new composites from the creepy spider guys. So before you're asked, it's sturdy. Also, it's a Holton Strokes drive in case you're asked. I cut a deal that you would give them a feedback and advertising rights if you survive," Eddie replied as he had already turned his back and working on the ship. Marco couldn't help but smile. Ever since the Speedway blockade was in place, he had propelled Hazard's shipbuilding industry. The independent colony shipbuilders were famous across the galaxy for making the fastest ships. The nearby human settlement had ended up trapped by their blockade. Hard to believe that unclaimed human settlement has grown so much under an embargo. Of course, if we could actually stop their ships, it would mean more, the commander thought, not for the first time. When he had initially seen the settlement, it didn't even have any docks. The crazy humans were landing, to use the term loosely, on the planet. "Sir," all the ambassadors responded. "They are all eagerly watching," his executive officer stated. Both had to chuckle. It was a standard response. "Oh, and Yuri said that he hopes our ships have gotten faster. He is sending you another bottle of their vodka as a consolation." Another problem with dealing with these crazy critters, the commander thought, as he couldn't help but smile. No other race had so many ambassadors. Humanity had been shown to be united when facing an outside threat. They still were more than happy to fight each other without it. I'm glad we didn't know what we were when they first met them. Yet, despite all the ambassadors, somehow none are ever responsible for the responsible party. We have been trying to get one of them to claim this colony since it started. They all insist that it isn't theirs. He couldn't help but remember the meetings that they had 8 years ago. The human ambassador they had approached was from the group called America. He had laughed at their delegation out of his office after he understood what was happening. He had said, If you want to chase moonshiners, don't ask us for help. His intelligence officers had taken months to understand that one. It turned out the hazardous chemicals, or booze, was a recreational drink for humans. Apparently, the Americas tried to prohibit the consumption of these, which led to the citizens developing cars to outrun law enforcement. At the time, it had been confusing why the humans didn't understand a blockade, but he had gained an appreciation for the love of this drink. This response had come after the delegation informed the American ambassador that they had been chasing ships from the colony full of hazardous chemicals. It was still a significant turning point. After that, interest amongst the humans exploded. Following that meeting, the human pilots quit carrying booze or much else not required to go faster. That's when the ships really started to get crazy fast. The initial blockade runners were designed for speed and holding capacity. They were rough-looking, but easily underestimated. No one had even seriously considered faster-than-light travel before those ships had shown up. While many of the new ships paid some level of homage to them, they were now brightly colored and covered in sponsor logos. Yeah, I didn't think they would claim these nuts. They never had before, and I'm not even sure if the humans know whose colony this is anymore, he replied. He couldn't even get upset. He had gotten past that years ago. He almost wished the leadership could see the futility of the station. That was until he heard from his peers about some of the crappy assignments. The worst part of this job was when his men had to scrape the remains of a human ship off one of the asteroids. The commander walked towards the command deck in the station. He could hear the excitement everywhere. His crew knew what was coming and was excited. It kept the blockade interesting. A few years prior, those assigned to the station had taken to watching the spectacle from the possible view screen. He shook his head while thinking, they're gambling on the outcome, yet another unusual human quirk. I wonder what the odds are, and if maintenance got my bets in. Command would have my arse if they knew that I was betting on it. The commander was still shaking his head as he entered the deck to see the human fleet in a large screen feed. Gentlemen, how is the ugliest fleet in the galaxy progressing? He asked no one in particular as he got into his command chair on the deck. He knew his executive officer would be preparing a gazette wing for today's mission. He rotated the responsible wings, but realized today he would need to deploy the elbow wing as well. Captain Pasag, given the size of this month's fleet, do you have enough ships? I already pulled elbow, figured it was what you'd want, the captain replied. He is going to be damned good commander someday, the commander thought to himself, smiling. Good. Tell all the pilots that if any of them can pass their target, they'll get a shore leave. The commander replied with a chuckle. I remember the panic the humans caused the first few times they did this. Hard to believe that it's been so long. As the commander looked at the common screen, he could see that the utility drones had almost finished illuminating the asteroid belt. It was a safety precaution that they had taken in an attempt to reduce casualties. While humans died all the time, it didn't seem to deter them from showing up. But he hated explaining to command why humans were dying at his blockade. Why is hit rock so hard to explain? He briefly wondered. Commander, why are they doing this? Broke into his thoughts as a new comms ensign spoke up. It was part of the shipment of green soldiers that he had gotten yesterday. Looking around, he could see the similar questions on the face of all of his new soldiers. I guess this hasn't made it into the training manuals yet, he mused. The whole galaxy used warp drives to safely pop into existence near a network of buoys. Only the humans were insane enough to travel at speeds faster than light. Well, it initially caused a lot of excitement. The more they learned about it, the more it became apparently only humans would do. The idea of flying faster than you can see pushes the definition of sapient. Because command says that we have to maintain the blockade, he replied. I know that isn't what he's after. I've been around the humans for too long. They are such a contrarian species. Yes, Commander, I understand that. I mean, why are the humans doing this? The ensign asked, a little flustered over his response, but trying to remain respectful. Ah, yes. Why would humans do something crazy and reckless as running a military blockade regularly? Don't know if our best philosophers or xenopsychologists could answer that question. If you asked a human, I suspected they would say because it was fun, he replied with a chuckle. Looking up at the screen, he could see the fielder ships, most of which looked like they were built in the Sapient garage from scrap. He knew better than to judge based on the looks alone. These were likeliest the fastest ships in known space. He had learned that early on when he actually was trying to chase them. 10 years ago, he would almost keep up. Now, I'm convinced the humans just want the footage from our ships. He mused how the humans had been purchasing their coverage and broadcasting it for several years. It was humiliating, yet profitable. In a couple more years, his retirement fund would allow for a new shuttle, too. So, why do they broadcast at all? The ensign asked, breaking into the commander's thoughts. The ships were lining up in their starting formation now. I asked that once. The answer was entertainment, and yes, I know several humans die a year doing it. Be glad that we aren't fighting them. They don't seem to care. The commander enjoyed the look of shock on the young ensign's face. He looked up in time to hear the announcer yell over the blaring music, "Gentlemen, start your engines!" This preceded the starting lights turning green by seconds. With that, the human ships disappeared and streaks of color smeared across the screens. He yet again marveled at the race of beings smart enough to understand the laws of physics, yet stupid enough to break them. No one in the entire known universe pursued faster than light travel once they realized the navigational challenges mixed with those kinds of speeds. Only humans are crazy enough to think that it was a good idea when warp drives were readily available. He thought as he watched the coverage shift and the cockpit mode, seeing the blur of the universe running backwards. Course, if they had used warp, we would be shot them years ago. Instead, they zip into the system and run through the damned asteroid belt. What? I don't see any warp signatures, the ensign started to say, but was drowned out by chuckles as the rest of the soldiers on the bridge had. Your equipment is fine. They didn't warp. They used faster than light travel. They will be in here in about 45 seconds, the commander responded while thinking. No matter how many times I see them take off, it never ceases to impress me. With that, the commander opened the comm channel to Captain Basag. They're off. Should arrive any second now. We're ready. Roger, Commander. All right, got our... Oh, crap. Captain barely had time to respond as the first ship smeared into existence, already almost at a nearby asteroid belt. Everything okay, Captain? The commander asked as he watched 5 of his ships bolt from their line in pursuit of the first humans. Not even a fraction of a second behind the first to smear into existence, more of the human fleet's visual image caught up with their rapidly deaccelerating ships. It was time to run the asteroid belt. His ships just showed their targets. They had long since learned to not even try the asteroid belt. Walker watched the world smearing into something that he could visually process around him for the first time since the start of the race, losing his smile, as even the inertial dampeners couldn't make that sudden deacceleration or the asteroid belt feel comfortable. He looked down, the marker that he'd been almost half a second ahead of the next closest racer. Holy crap, driver's right, this damn thing is fast. Even before he could clearly see the outside of the ship, he was making adjustments based on his instruments to get a good run on the belt. He knew that his lead would be post a good time. How can any race think a warp drive is better than this? Yes, Commander, they are early and surprised me is all, the captain replied as the commander watched each of the fighters pair off with the arriving ships. Ah, the fun is beginning. Didn't think that they would even break the 45-second barrier, though. Guess the human delivery tugs were about to get one hell of an upgrade. The commander chuckled as he watched the stream of human ships heading into the asteroid belt. His ships would shadow them as they ran the asteroid belt. Even his pilots were not crazy enough to make a run through them. They had seen enough humans killed there and early on lost enough ships that they weren't about to follow them in. The commander tried not to laugh as he watched the flustered ensign trying to figure out what was going on. He was sputtering like an engine running on antimatter. What? How did they go so fast? The ensign finally managed to choke out. His shock was clearly painted on his face. It was painfully obvious that the training still only focused on warp drives. It was the first time that he'd seen human FTL drives. There are 2 things that I've found that humans love, the commander paused in reply as he watched the human ships crash through the small asteroids, emerging out the other side of the cloud in new debris. Danger and speed. I've been told by some of my peers that they might like firepower more, but luckily the ones here are unarmed. The commander watched without bothering to conceal his amusement as most of his new crew began to wander to the screen to watch the racers streaking through the asteroid belt. On some level, as he watched the spectacle, he was thankful that he had never opened fire on these insane space monkeys. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this dose of science fiction fun. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you did, please don't forget to support the author from the link down below. But if you want to support this channel, there are links as well down below for you to help with. But the easiest way would be to share this video. And if you are so inclined, subscribe as well. I will see you all in the next episode, and I hope that you all have a fantastic time until then. Cheers.